Hey there, good morning, everybody. Tim from Alpha Wolf Trading coming at you with this week's stocks to watch for trading and investing. And hey, for you pro members, this is going to be while football season is happening anyway. For the next 16, 17, 18, 19 weeks, this will be the format for the blog post each week, stocks to watch. Instead of doing a breakdown and all that stuff on the blog, this will be the format going forward. Like I said, at least through football season. So, real quick, we are going to be making some changes to Alpha Wolf Trading Service. I'm going to scale back my workload and going to adjust some pricing on some things, and we'll see how that flows from there. But keep an eye out. Changes are coming. So, let's first talk about the comments on the blog. You know, a lot of people, are just waiting for the shoe to drop, and all of a sudden we're going to, go into this bear market, and that may happen. I don't know what would be the catalyst for that, but the charts really just aren't showing that. There's a lot of strength out there, a lot of good-looking trends. We're consolidating near highs. We've got some breakouts happening and things like the transportation sector, which is, kind of a big deal. The China tariffs, maybe that puts a hit on things. We'll see. One thing to keep an eye on, we do $200 billion in tariffs. I think that's going to give the dollar a boost. And if we get a strong dollar, some of these big multinationals could have a difficult time, right? Strong dollar puts pressure on some of the big names. But right now, industrials and transportation and some of these big aerospace defense, they look really, really good. They look very strong, actually. So IBB, pulling back to an area of potential support where we may get a bounce. Kind of looking like a little bit of a bear flag there, but also an area where we could see a bounce and maybe go back up and test that trend line. IWM really just been in consolidation mode and remains in a nice looking uptrend. So IWM small caps looking good. And look, if we do get a strong dollar, that actually is beneficial for the small caps. So keep that in mind. IYT, like I said, breaking out, took out that trend line after a nice little consolidation pattern here, and looking like we're potentially heading higher. We've got FedEx that is reporting earnings this week. That could give a little boost to the transportation space. NASDAQ, tech, right? So we got up to the trend line, we pulled back. We're at an area of potential support. Some big names within the space have been getting hit, but it's actually still in a nice looking little uptrend here, and we'll see if that can hold, and then maybe we go back up and test highs. I mean, we are testing all-time highs, right? And we're consolidating. So I think this is healthy action. The Fed could be a different story next week. See what happens there. But for right now, we had a big reversal in SMH. We broke below the 200-day, reclaimed it, and that sector is actually showing to be pretty resilient. However, I will say that we've got a trend, a downward trend. We keep making these lower highs, and if we go back up here, make another lower high, and then pull back down, maybe SMH is an area to be somewhat cautious of, but we got a pretty nice reversal last week and reclaimed that 200-day. So SMH is looking kind of interesting. SPY, we are consolidating right near all-time highs. Now, actually, I could see us, maybe if we get that strong dollar, you get some of those big names pulling back, maybe we come back and test somewhere in this 285 area or so, come back and test this trend line, test that moving average. Aerospace and defense, like I said, big pop. Now this is getting a bit extended on the daily time frame. Strong dollar. Maybe we see a pullback in aerospace and defense, but I got to tell you, another sector that's looking really, really strong. XLF, rising interest rate environment, and we're not really seeing the banks perform all that well. This could just continue to consolidate, but it is above the moving averages. Big, thick stocks typically in the XLF, more swing or long-term hold considerations. Pull back into this 2750 area could be interesting. as potential price support. Uh, but I think financials are one that an area that you probably still need to be a little bit cautious in. XLV, um, the healthcare sector has been really, really strong. You know, I could see that pulling back as well, maybe taking a little breather or getting a little extended here. Maybe pull back into this, what is that, 32 area? Or is that the 92 area? Oh, 92. 92 area. Got my glasses. I need a new prescription. So healthcare looking really, really strong. I wouldn't be surprised if we took a little breather here, maybe got a little bit of a pullback. Consumer discretionary, uh, testing the top end of this little wedge pattern here. Maybe it pulls back into this 115 area, but still nice overall uptrend in consumer discretionary. And then look at retail. Retail is also kind of flagging out just underneath the top of this wedge pattern here, this trend line. So look, a lot of strength out there right now. Could everything, all of a sudden just crater? Yeah, that's possible. Anything is possible, but I don't think that's going to happen next week. I think if anything, maybe we consolidate a bit more, build up some energy, and then possibly get some of these sectors and indexes making new all-time highs. So that's my take on the overall markets. Let's take a look at the stocks to watch list for the week. Before I get rolling into that, look, last week's list, look at this. Hair up 32%, GNC 32%, VHC 23%. It was actually up more, got up to about $4.95. I actually took that as a short-term swing, and it's on my list again this week. But I took this as a short-term swing, scaled out, got a little lotto piece, and we'll see where it goes. But some pretty good movers last week. Hopefully you were able to catch one, maybe two of these, right? I don't expect everybody to catch them all, but there was definitely some movers on that list. All right, let's take a look at this week's list. And I've got everything for everybody, right? I mean, you're a day trader, penny stock player, swing trader, long-term investor. Got a little something for everybody here. So my size, look, it's kind of a story stock, pop and flopper, tends to be a pop, but it has had some big runs. Now it had a big pop last week, and I'm not sure what made it go. I didn't see any change, significant news, but it had a nice pop. And on Friday, it was on massive volume, 19.4 million shares trading hands. Now look, that's the second day of the move. Maybe it gets a 3-day run. Maybe we get a red to green move, right? A pullback to the 200-day at around 120. You got some potential price support there, and then you look for a pop up into around $1.70 or so, $1.70, $1.75, maybe even gets a $2 holler, right? So you got stochastics curling up, you got MACD histo curling up. I think it's interesting for a day trade or a high risk swing, right? So if you day trade it, you can scalp out some. You want to hold some lottos to see if you get any kind of follow through and maybe get up into the 215 or maybe even 250 area, somewhere in that area. Just understand that this is a high risk play, but it has had some really good trades, some really good runs in the past, and we could get another one here with my size. KNDI. So we had that China electric car IPO, which went crazy. NIO, a lot of people hit that for a day trade, and it did pull back fairly significantly at the end of the day on Friday, but had an amazing run. So his sympathy play is this KNDI, another Chinese electric car manufacturer. Now, there have been significant insider buys in the 4 to 475 area, 393 to 521 area. And then recently, the CEO just bought 100,000 shares between August and September, ranging from 380 to 419. So, look, high risk potential swing here. Did reclaim the 50-day moving average. What I'm look, it went right up into the 200-day and pulled back, right? So what I'm looking at here is potentially a pullback to 450 or 430, where we've got some potential price support and maybe a red to green type move, and see if we get a 3 or 4 day run out of this. Maybe take out the 200-day moving average, and maybe even get up and test into the $6 area. It's got a fairly small float. I think there's a pretty big short interest there as well. If this NIO has a red to green move, look for KNDI as a potential sympathy play. PRKR. So last week I had DHC. They had a ruling, from a court about a patent. Parker also had a ruling last week about a patent that they have a lawsuit against Qualcomm, and it was in their favor. So, look, these are high risk plays. I think, has got a fairly small float. 200,000 shares have been bought by insiders in September at 40 cents. Maybe this thing comes back and we get a double bottom test somewhere in the 30 to how low did we get here? Almost 20 cents, right? Somewhere in that area, you get a double bottom test. It might be interesting for a high risk lotto swing, is what I would call that. And it could be interesting for a day trade on a break over this trend line. Maybe we consolidate a bit more here at the 50-day, and then we take this out and we get a test up in here around 81 cents. Now, could be just a nice little scalp, but worth keeping an eye on PRKR for a potential day trading opportunity. NVTA, 42.6 million shares, big volume for it on Friday, 7.3 million shares trading hands. Testing this 1560 area, and this is an area of potential price resistance on a weekly time frame. So if we can take this out, there's a good possibility that we could be coming up to test that $20 all-time high area. So worth keeping an eye on. A nice volume. Look at this accumulation on the weekly time frame, right? So we've had some nice accumulation in the name. We're testing, 52-week highs and a big area on the weekly. We've got stochastics curling up. We've got Chaikin money flow curling up. We've got MACD histo looking like it's about to cross, maybe go positive. So a lot to like about this one. Could be a red to green swing type play as well. Higher risk because of its like a biotech type name. So keep that in mind. Let's keep moving here. RLGT, Logistics Integrated Shipping, name had a nice little pop on Friday. Potentially looking for a pullback into the $4.70 area, maybe 480, 490. Maybe that holds the support for a bounce. Nice volume on Friday, 1 million shares trading hands. And we just looked at the IYT, which is kind of breaking out. So if you are looking for potential day trade within that space, this one could be worth keeping an eye on. Like I said, little red to green action. The other thing I really like about this could, like I said, this could be a swing. We've got a golden cross happening too. We got the 50-day crossing over the 200-day. So you've got a sector that's looking pretty good, and you've got an individual stock that had a nice pop on volume. You've got a golden cross happening. A lot to like about this setup. If it pulls all the way back to the 460 area, that could be a really, really interesting spot for a swing position on our LGT. HYRE, Russell actually pointed this one out on Friday, and this has got I'm a little skeptical of this company because the CEO is also the CFO. It makes me a little nervous, but we do have a reverse candle here where we pierced the lower Bollinger Band, and we're trying to take out this trend line. We're trying to get back above the 8 EMA. It's kind of got an interesting look to it. Looked like we were going to try and take out $3. We had volume rising on Friday. Maybe this gets a red to green move. an entry around 460 460, 260 or 250 could be interesting. And then you put your stop below this recent low, right? So maybe 220 or something like that. But worth keeping an eye on HYRE, small float, 8.4 million shares. See if volume continues to pick up, but this could get a nice little pop up into the 350, 360 area where it'll find some resistance at the 50-day. RGNX, great looking chart, 28.3 million shares in the float. Look at this run that this thing has had. And it pulled back to the 50-day, consolidated, had a little pop, consolidated, and then broke out again on Friday with some volume. So maybe we get a red to green and a continuation of this move, and then we take out, I think this is all-time highs. Now, it is biotech, so you got to be careful here, but worth keeping an eye on this one for potential continuation. Good looking chart on the daily. OI, Owings. Now this has got 145 million shares in the float. Owens, Illinois. A little flat top breakout here on Friday, second day of the move. I'm thinking we could have some resistance here right around $20 or so, but we might punch through that 200-day up into the $21 area. So what I'm thinking is, we get a red to green, a pull back to 1875 or so, and then go test that 200-day. You take some off there, and then see if you get any follow through into this price resistance at about 21 or $22, and then you take the rest off. Unless you're real comfortable with this one as a long-term hold type play. I don't know enough about the company to feel comfortable doing that. I'm just looking for maybe a short-term swing in OI. CVLX, this has had a nice breakout after tight consolidation right here at the 50-day. Now this is looking a little extended, but could be worth keeping an eye on. I think that this one is all-time highs, right? So we're in blue sky territory. Maybe look for a red to green, or not a red to green, maybe look for a consolidation here, pull back to say $25 and see if that acts as price support, maybe $24, somewhere in there. See if we've got price support there. I think 25 is really interesting, right? It acted as resistance, came back, we've now punched through it. Maybe we drift back to the 25 area and it holds, put in a nice little flag pattern there. Just at least worth having on the radar. 9.5 million shares in the float. Very, very tiny, and it looks like we've got some accumulation going on the daily. RRTS. So, full disclosure, I have what I would call a lotto play in this, right? It's a lotto swing, long-term hold. Look, I'm prepared for it to go to zero. I don't have a big enough position that it would, impact me. This is a high risk, high reward type scenario. The reason why it popped on Friday with big volume is because they had an article out of the Wall Street Journal that they had hired Barclays to explore alternatives to their current debt situation. And, they basically had to take a not so favorable debt loan from one of their largest shareholders at a very high interest rate. And, the news was that they hired Barclays, but that was actually old news. And it really isn't anything for the stock to have a big pop off of, because the news that will pop it will be if they actually come up with a solution to this high interest debt that they have. One of the things that they did indicate in the article is that the bankruptcy is not really on the table. Restructuring or bankruptcy is not on the table. They have enough liquidity, they have enough cash flow to, weather this storm, but they need a better debt situation. So just because they said that they're restructuring or bankruptcy isn't on the table doesn't mean it can't happen. That's why it's such a high risk. The debt is an issue. If they come out with a favorable, favorable workaround for this thing, I think you're going to see a much bigger pop than what you saw on Friday. So the other thing to keep in mind is that, this thing could go to 50 cents, go to 25 cents. It's at all-time lows. So I'm building a little position there. If it got to 50 cents, I likely would add. If it got to 25 cents, I would likely add. And wait this thing out. I think they're going to be successful. It's a whole new management team. The old management team was corrupt. I think they're then indicted. There's definitely some issues with the old management team, but I think these guys are going to turn it around. And when they do, I think the reward could be quite significant. I'm talking about, a multi-bagger here. But you play that size appropriate, because here's what can happen. We could have a reverse split, right? If it gets down to 25 cents, what do you think is going to happen? Now, it's already got a small float, 17.9 million shares. It could do, they could do a 10-for-1 reverse split, and then you're looking at, a very tiny float, and one tidbit of good news, sucker's going to scream. I did this with HEAR here, which is on my list this week, but high risk, high reward, potential swing, long-term hold play. Could be a day trade if they come out with news, but interesting play in a sector that is looking fairly strong, trucking sector, right? GNC. So yeah, last week I got to tell you, I called this out for the pro members in pre-market. Called out an entry of 325 for a day trading opportunity, and guess what happened? Hit 325, and I decided to lower my entry to 316. Why did I do that? Well, because that's where the 50-day moving average was. So I thought we would kind of tap the 50-day. Needless to say, hit 325, turn around and bounce. Now, a couple of guys hit that and had a nice little day trading opportunity. I still like GNC. CFIUS passed their China merger or joint venture deal. It's right here at the 200-day. I'm looking for it to pull back maybe into the 350 area. I'm going to take a swing in it because I think we're going to take out that 200-day. I think maybe we go much higher. They're in a much better cash flow situation or cash position after this CFIUS news. So I like it for a potential swing. Maybe we get a pullback. I'd love it on a gap fill down to 290, but I don't know if we're going to get that. We might just consolidate here. I'd like to get it on a pullback to 335, 350. Could be a day trade too on a break over 200 day with volume. AVP, more of a swing, long-term hold type play. It's been consolidating just below the 200-day moving average. This is a big, thick stock, 387 million shares in the float. What's the potential catalyst to break us over that 200-day? Well, we've got some insider buying that in the $2 area by a director and the CEO, and they have an event. I believe it is September 21st. It's Friday. They have an investment day on September 21st. I thought I put that on this chart. Oh, insider buy. Hold on a second. All right, well, look, insider buys, and then they do have an investor day on the 21st of this week. So I'm thinking maybe we get a little pop into that event. So it could be a little short-term swing. And then, look, if you get out the day of the event or the night before the event, maybe you hold some shares and see if it gets any follow-through, if there's some good news announced at the actual event. VSTM, another biotech name, has been in consolidation mode, just sitting right here, right above 850 price support. That seems to be holding a support. Looking for maybe a little trend line break here, 49 million shares in the float. This has got a pretty interesting look. Maybe on a pullback to the 50-day at 840, that could be an interesting spot to take it for a high-risk swing. You don't have to take a lot of shares, just worth keeping an eye on. I like the daily setup. THRM. You know what? I don't know how this got on my list. I don't think that I meant to put this on my list. I know I didn't mean to put this on my list, but boy, good looking chart. Auto parts, 27 million shares in the float. I got to tell you, pretty darn good looking chart right there. Back this out to the weekly. That's not bad. That's an area of potential price resistance. 50 bucks. Take out 50 bucks. I think maybe you get a test up into the $57 area. Good looking chart. Did not mean to have it on my chart. Not sure which chart it was supposed to be. Maybe it was TXMD. Hold on a second. No. Huh. THRM. Well, I'll try to figure out which one that was, but not a bad looking chart right there. ATRS. Have been watching this one consolidate and pull back to the 50-day. This is the generic EpiPen. You know, look, if this thing pulls back into this price support of about 295, I actually tried to get a limit fill on Friday at 307, 307. I didn't get the fill. I may try to get a fill on this next week, and it's a high risk swing, right? But pull back to 295 in that area, that price support area, or the 50-day. I could look to take a starter in this ATRS, and if it were to pull all the way back down to 250, I'd add to that position. I think this one is interesting for like I said, a higher risk swing. You've got the CFO that bought 130,000 shares at 279. That's a pretty significant buy. I like it. I like the setup. I like that you got the 50-day above the 200-day. I'm looking at this one for a potential higher risk swing. Galt pulled back to the 50-day. It's been consolidating just above 5. This has been on my radar for a few weeks now. Looking for either a trend line break for a day trading opportunity, 31.9 million shares in the float, or could be looking for a pullback into, say, this 460, 450 area, see if that acts as support for a bounce. But Galt, I like the look of it on the daily as well. AUDC, audio code, big pop off of earnings, been in consolidation mode. Would love to get this at 980. Pull back to 980, the 50-day. Thinking of more of a swing. 20 million shares in the float. Got a little bit of a bounce on Friday. You know, it looks like you've got some accumulation going on here. I like the trend of AUDC. An entry close to 10 bucks for a swing or long-term hold consideration is on my radar for AUDC. NX building materials. You know, this had a big pop. I believe this was off earnings, consolidating just above the 200-day. Now, that's pierced the 200-day a few times. Bounced on Friday. Maybe it needs more time to consolidate, but I really like the way this one is setting up. You know, I'm thinking eventually we get a test up into this $21, $22 area, $21.50, somewhere in that area. You know, maybe this one is interesting on a pullback to say 1875 or so. See if that holds the support. 1850 could be an interesting spot for a potential bounce. 29.4 million shares in the float. ADTN, another communication equipment stock that had a nice pop. Consolidating is a little bit early, right? Maybe this needs to consolidate a bit more and work its way back into the Bollinger Band, but pretty good looking breakout there above the 200-day. I mean, it was in tight consolidation right at the 200-day. Nice pop. Look for a consolidation. Maybe we pull back, we drift back into the $17.50, $18 area. That could be an interesting spot for an entry, and I'm thinking more of a swing or long-term hold play. Luna was on last week's list and remains on my list because it hasn't broke down, it hasn't broke out. It's consolidating. I'm looking for a trend line break. This could be a swing, higher risk, smaller float, 24.5 million shares in the float. 350, 340, somewhere in that area, I would be very inclined to take a starter position in Luna for a swing. GNMK, another medical device company that had a nice run. It's been consolidating, pulling back, and we're approaching this area of potential price support. 750 could be that area for a bounce. and then look for it to take out this trend line and maybe get a $9 test. But it's been pulling back on lower volume. Another one to keep an eye out on for a potential breakout. TXMD, another biotech, been some insider buying. It's consolidating just above this cluster of moving averages, flirting with the $6 roll, looking for a trend line break with some volume. I think, on a pullback to 590, 580 could be an interesting spot to try and take it for a little bounce play. Could be a scalp, could be a swing, higher risk swing, but worth keeping an eye on. TXMD. They just had, I think they had some news on Friday. They just had a drug approved. So worth keeping an eye on. TXMD. AVID has been some insider buying. Had news after the close on Friday. Had a nice pop. I believe this was after earnings on good volume. It's been pulling back on lower volume. I think a pullback into the 200-day, 525 area, 528, 525 area could be an interesting spot to take it for a swing. It's got 33.7 million shares in the float. Like I said, there's been some insider activity. This is another one that has an all-new management team. We're testing this little trend line right here, see if that holds its support. But I got to tell you, if this gets down into the $5 area, could be interesting for a swing starter. I like it. AVID. PLXW, another one that had a nice run. I believe that was also off of earnings. Pulled back to the 20-day, holding as potential support. We've got some potential price support here as well. We've also got the 200-day there as potential support. So this could be an interesting area to take it for a bounce, maybe a swing, maybe look for a break over the trend line, take out the $5 holla, and go back up and test that $5.75, $6 area. This can be a pop and flopper. So be careful with PXLW, but I like the look of the daily setup. NIHD is another one that we've been keeping an eye on for quite a while, and it is consolidating, has been consolidating after this big run. Testing the 50 EMA as potential support, 50-day. Maybe this one is more interesting on a pullback to say 420 or so for a swing, and maybe on a break over 530, 550 with volume could be a day trading opportunity. Maybe we go back up and test the $7 holla. This has only got 74 million shares in the float, but this also has a very interesting look on the daily. And I'm going to end this with HEAR. So, here got whacked last week, and I didn't know why. I actually, but then I found it. I guess Kramer had them on or made mention of them on Fast Money, suggesting that this was a boom and bust story because Fortnite is slowing down. And he took the example of when this had run in the past and then wound up cratering over several years. For a guy that claims to do a lot of homework, he just didn't do his homework on this one to even make a comment like that. Number one, different scenario back then. They wound up doing an acquisition of a company they paid too much for. It was great technology, but they could never get it rolling, and it was a cash drain on this company. That is what hurt them. Number two, they are the number one headset provider out there. Fortnite may be slowing down, but I can tell you this: I'm a gamer. I'm a 53-year-old gamer, and Call of Duty is one of my favorite games to play. I use a headset, and they are coming out with this thing called Black Ops, which is going to be similar to the same type of gameplay as Fortnite, and it is getting rave reviews. I mean, rave reviews. I just ordered it, Black Ops, downloaded it, pre-ordered it, the deluxe edition, blah, blah, blah. I'm so excited, I can't even tell you. I can't wait to play it, and the reviews are phenomenal. I think HEAR is going to have an amazing fourth quarter. Right? A holiday season is typically their best quarter of the year. They just came out with some new products, and this esports and all this stuff, they are the dominant player. I'm telling you right now, one, I think they might be an acquisition candidate for somebody at some point. Two, I think that they are not a boom and bust story. I don't think the Fortnite story is over, and I don't think Turtle Beach's story is over. They got rid of that losing division, and they have just been blowing up. They're paying down shitty debt. They're doing all kinds of things to put this company on in a much stronger position. The only thing I would worry about is that they do another acquisition of some dumb company like they did last time. That would be a bad thing, right? But I think that if this thing gets down, so I started a position on Friday, just a little position, because, look, we could get some people that really start to freak out. Technically, this is looking like it's breaking down, but it is starting to pierce the lower Bollinger Band. If it gets down to $16, I'm looking at that as a longer term level of support. I'm going to add. If it got down to this $13 area, or even better yet, come back down and fill this gap on the daily to $8, and I'm going to build out an even more substantial position. I'm looking to build this out. I think Kramer is dead wrong. I think he'll be proven wrong. I think they're going to have a fantastic holiday season, and the numbers are going to keep coming in strong. Can they continue the growth like this forever? Look, I don't know how long it will last, but I think that this is just the beginning stage. You've got Activision coming out with Call of Duty Black Ops. Then you've got EA Sports coming out with Battlefield, which is another similar type game to Fortnite. I think this is the beginning of something, not the end of something. So HEAR, I think, does well for a long time to come. So looking to build a nice position. Now, I had this thing at 46 cents, 47 cents. I had a huge win in this thing, huge. And now I'm looking to build back into the position. When everybody hates it, that's when I like to keep an eye on it. So, all right, that's it. Listen, I'm not going to be doing these videos for free for everybody every single week like I have been for the last several weeks. I've spent a lot of time doing free content for many, many, many years. It has taken and consumed a lot of my life, and now I'm going to scale back. I'm going to focus on me more, and I'm going to focus on my members more. But like I said, changes are coming for Alpha Wolf Trading. Keep your eyes peeled. That's it. Have a fantastic week. Good luck trading, and I will see you all soon.